People dismissed humans as stories. Then 10,000 dreadnoughts showed up above the council chamber was enormous, stretching wider than any city on the planets below. Lights shimmered across the walls, reflecting off the polished surfaces in a way that made the room seem alive. Alien delegates filled the seats, each one from a different world, with shapes and forms so strange that it would have been impossible to imagine them without seeing them in person. Some had multiple arms, some had elongated heads, and some seemed almost made of liquid that moved beneath their translucent skin. In the center, a large holographic globe hovered, displaying the known galaxy in all its detail. Stars blinked and shifted as the council members moved about, discussing trade, territory, and politics. Among all these beings, humans were a topic of whispered jokes, dismissed as stories from an old age. Liam Carter, a young diplomat from the Garinth species, sat quietly in his seat, listening to the chatter. He had pale green skin and long, thin fingers, and his eyes glimmered with curiosity. Unlike many of the other members, he did not laugh when the subject of humans came up. Humans, he had read in the ancient records, had once been survivors in a harsh blue planet. They had faced plagues, wars, and natural disasters, and yet they survived. He found it strange that the council dismissed them so easily. "They say humans are myths," whispered one of his colleagues, a wide bipedal being with a rough brown hide. "Stories to entertain younglings." Liam said nothing, but he kept a careful note of the reactions. Nora Fields, a historian who had spent decades studying extinct civilizations, was growing more and more frustrated. She stood at her spot in the gallery, speaking to the delegates around her. "You are wrong to underestimate them," she said, her voice firm and steady. Her skin shimmered with a pale blue hue, and her long hair floated slightly as if it had a life of its own. "Humans are not merely stories. They were survivors, adapters, and innovators. They overcame obstacles that would have destroyed many other species." Some delegates snorted, dismissing her words with a wave of a hand, while others simply ignored her. Nora sighed. She had warned the council many times about the danger of forgetting the past, and yet her voice always fell into the void. Eli Rhodes, an elder of the council, chuckled at the historian's insistence. He had been part of the council for longer than most members could remember, his long silver appendages moving slowly as he leaned back in his chair. "Nora, you always cling to ancient tales," he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "Even if humans existed, they are gone. Their planet is small, their technology primitive. You worry too much about shadows." Around him, delegates laughed, the sound echoing through the chamber. Liam felt a pang of unease. Something in their laughter felt hollow. It was not the confidence of true knowledge, but the arrogance of ignorance. Far above the council chamber, hidden from view by layers of cloaking devices and shields, humans were moving. Jack Harper, a human fleet commander, stood on the bridge of one of their massive ships, the largest of the hidden fleet. The ship's walls were lined with glowing panels, each displaying the movements of the ships around them. Jack was tall, with broad shoulders and steady eyes, and his hands rested on the edge of the console. Around him, officers moved with quiet purpose. Maya Brooks, the chief strategist, studied a holographic map of the galaxy. Her dark hair was tied back, and her eyes focused sharply on every point, every line of potential threat. "They still think we are myths," she said softly, almost to herself. Ethan Cole, a pilot with a reputation for daring flights, grinned. "Let them think whatever they want. They won't know what hit them." The humans had been planning for decades. They had built their fleet in secret, hiding their dreadnought-class ships among asteroids and dark nebulae. Each ship was a fortress equipped with weapons capable of destroying entire star stations. Their technology combined what had been learned from decades of exploration, experimentation, and ingenuity. Unlike many other species, humans had not relied solely on raw power. They had studied, calculated, and innovated, finding ways to outmaneuver fleets far larger than theirs. Jack knew the council believed humans were weak. He also knew that belief would be their downfall. Back in the council chamber, the delegates continued their debates, unaware that the humans were watching and waiting. Some spoke of trade disputes, some of minor border skirmishes, and a few tried to bring up humans again, only to be laughed down. "Why would we worry about a species that cannot even control their own planet?" one delegate asked, his voice a harsh rasp that made Liam flinch. "They are gone, and we are wise to forget them." The statement was met with more laughter. Nora's frustration grew. She tried again to remind them of human ingenuity, of the countless times they had risen from the edge of extinction, but the words fell like stones into empty water. No one listened. Liam watched silently, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and unease. He had read the records, seen the reports, and studied the histories. Humans had been underestimated before, but they had survived, and in some cases thrived. To dismiss them entirely was dangerous, and yet the council did it without a second thought. He leaned closer to Nora and whispered, "Are we certain we know everything about them?" Nora shook her head, her eyes narrowing. "No," she said quietly. "And that is the problem." Liam did not reply, but he could feel a sense of anticipation building. Something was coming, he was certain of it, though he did not yet know what. Above the galaxy, human ships moved in precise formation, silent and invisible. The dreadnoughts were enormous, each one bristling with weapons, shields, and defensive systems. Their engines emitted a soft hum, barely detectable but enough to vibrate through the metal floors of the command bridges. Jack walked along the corridors of the flagship, observing the crews. Each officer moved with calm confidence, knowing their place and their mission. Discipline was their strength, strategy their weapon. "We are ready," he said finally. "When the time comes, the galaxy will see us." Maya nodded, her eyes still on the holographic map. "We wait for the signal," she said. "We strike only if necessary. But we will not be ignored." Ethan leaned against the railing of the observation deck, looking out into the dark void of space. "Do you think they will really believe we are gone?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Jack shook his head, a small smile forming. "No," he said. "They will laugh. They will dismiss us. That is their mistake." Below, in the council chamber, the delegates continued their laughter, unaware that the myth they mocked was now a force beyond their understanding. The humans had waited long enough, and soon the galaxy would remember them. In the chamber, discussion shifted to other topics, the threat of humans dismissed once more. Yet even in this moment of arrogance, there were glimpses of doubt. Some younger delegates, less secure in the council's authority, glanced at the maps and records, wondering if perhaps there was more to these stories. Liam noticed them, young minds open to the possibility that humans were not merely myths. He leaned back in his chair, feeling a strange hope. If the council could be warned, if even a few could understand the truth, perhaps disaster could be avoided. But the majority remained arrogant, believing their understanding of the galaxy was complete. Meanwhile, the humans continued their preparations in the dark reaches of space. Jack called a meeting of his senior officers. "We move carefully," he said, pointing at the holographic display of the council sector. "They do not know we exist. We will remain hidden until the time is right. When we appear, we will not be seen as weak. Every fleet, every ship, every weapon must function perfectly." Maya adjusted the map, highlighting paths of approach, defensive zones, and possible responses from the council fleets. "Their arrogance is their weakness," she said. "They do not expect patience, they do not expect planning. They assume they can laugh at us, and that will be their downfall." The human fleet, silent and massive, moved as one organism. The dreadnoughts were positioned in layers, each capable of supporting the others. Ethan flew reconnaissance missions, invisible to the council's sensors, mapping the positions of patrol ships, noting weak points and defense arrays, and reporting back with exact precision. Jack watched the reports, nodding. "We are ready," he said. "The galaxy will remember why humans survived. They will remember that we were not merely stories." And in the council chamber, the laughter continued, echoing through the halls. No one noticed the subtle shift in the stars, the quiet movement of a fleet hidden from their sensors. No one realized that the species they mocked, dismissed, and believed extinct had grown, planned, and waited. The humans had survived because they never relied solely on strength. They had learned, adapted, and built a force the galaxy would soon have to respect. Nora sighed, knowing she had tried to warn them. Liam felt a chill, sensing that soon the myths would become reality, and the council's arrogance would face a reckoning. The human fleet remained hidden in the dark stretches of space, cloaked by technology that even the most advanced alien sensors could not detect. The dreadnoughts moved silently, enormous shadows against the black void. Each ship was prepared for a single purpose, to show the galaxy that humans were not a story, not a myth, and not a species to be underestimated. Jack Harper walked along the main bridge of the flagship, his eyes scanning the data streams from all ships. Every dreadnought, every pilot, every weapon system had been checked and rechecked. Nothing was left to chance. He stopped at the console where Maya Brooks stood, studying the galactic map. "Everything looks ready," she said quietly. Her fingers traced the paths they would take, the approach vectors toward the council sector, the positions of alien fleets, and the patrols of smaller ships. "They don't suspect a thing. Their sensors won't detect us until we want them to." Jack nodded. "Patience is our advantage." They laughed at our existence. They will continue to laugh. That is when we will strike, not with anger, but with precision. His voice was calm, almost casual, but there was a steel underneath it that made the officers around him tense with respect. Ethan Cole, leaning against the railing nearby, grinned. I like it. They will think we are gone, that we are stories. That's perfect. The fleet was enormous. 10,000 dreadnoughts in total, each ship capable of carrying hundreds of crew members, massive weapons, and advanced shields. For decades, humans had built this fleet in secret. Every ship had been tested, every system perfected, and every crew trained to perform like a single organism. Jack had seen fleets before, massive alien armadas that dwarfed human imagination. But this fleet was different. It was human. It moved with intelligence, discipline, and a careful planning that no alien species had ever achieved. Maya turned to Jack, her eyes serious. We cannot rush. The Council believes we are myths. They are arrogant. If we make our presence known too early, they may panic and do something reckless. We need to wait for the right moment. Jack rubbed his chin. Agreed. Patience. Observation. Preparation. That is how humans survive. That is how humans always survive. He walked down the corridor toward the communications center, where the officers were running final checks on the fleet's cloaking and stealth systems. The hum of the engines, soft and deep, filled the air, a constant reminder of the power at their command. In the council chamber, life went on as if humans had never existed. Delegates argued over minor trade disputes, territorial rights, and allocation of resources. Liam Carter sat quietly listening and observing. He noticed small signs of unease among some of the younger delegates, but it was faint and easily ignored. Nora Fields, frustrated and almost desperate, tried once again to bring up humans. You are making a mistake, she said. Do not dismiss them. You do not understand what they are capable of. They survived against impossible odds. They built empires from nothing. They learned. They adapted. They are not gone. You cannot ignore them. The council erupted in laughter again, louder this time. Eli Rhodes waved a hand dismissively. Nora, your obsession with these stories is tiresome. Humans are irrelevant. Their planet is small. Their weapons, if any, are primitive. You cling to shadows from a past that has no place here. Nora's frustration boiled over, but she bit back her words. She knew reasoning with them was useless, yet she refused to give up. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans were growing stronger, preparing, and she knew the council would regret their arrogance. Back with the human fleet, Jack gathered a group of pilots for a briefing. You all know your routes, he said. You know your ships. You know your targets. We do not act unless we have to, but we will not be ignored. This is not about aggression. This is about showing the galaxy that humans exist, and that we are prepared to protect ourselves. Ethan raised an eyebrow. So this is our first real chance to remind them we're not stories? He asked. Jack smiled slightly. Exactly. They will laugh, they will doubt, and then they will understand. The pilots nodded, a quiet confidence settling over them. They trusted Jack because he had always led with clarity, intelligence, and courage. They trusted Maya because she had calculated every possibility and prepared for every outcome. They trusted each other because humans had learned that survival depended on unity. Maya moved over the holographic map again, pointing at the council's sector. Their patrols are regular. Sensors sweep predictable areas. Their response time is slow. They have grown complacent. That is our advantage. The moment we reveal ourselves, we must do it in a way that makes them realize they cannot dismiss us again. Jack stood silently for a moment, looking out through the observation window into the black void. We will not make a mistake, he said finally. Not one. Every ship, every pilot, every system must function perfectly. That is the difference between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Ethan laughed softly. That's a lot of pressure for a species they think is just a story. Jack turned to him, his face calm but intense. They will learn the truth soon enough. Above the council, small reconnaissance drones moved silently, scanning space for anything unusual. None detected the human fleet. Their sensors were advanced, but the humans had designed theirs to be invisible to every known detection system. The council went about its business, secure in the belief that the species they had laughed at for generations had disappeared. Liam Carter leaned toward Nora, whispering, Do you think they are really gone? Nora shook her head. I do not know, but I feel it.
Something is moving. Something they cannot see.
Something the council refuses to acknowledge. The council continued to discuss trade agreements and minor border conflicts. Some delegates grew bored and left the chamber, while others continued to debate the most trivial of matters. It was the perfect moment for humans to remain unseen, gathering strength, preparing to step out of myth and into reality. On the flagship, Jack walked through the corridors, stopping occasionally to speak to crew members. Each person he passed moved efficiently, without hesitation, knowing exactly what to do. Ethan was in the hangar bays inspecting small reconnaissance ships, ready to perform the missions that would gather intelligence and test alien defenses. Maya was still at the planning table calculating the movement of every patrol ship, every fleet, every potential countermeasure. She had created simulations of countless scenarios, ensuring that nothing would take them by surprise. Hours passed, the human fleet moving silently, hidden, and patient. The dreadnoughts, enormous and imposing, glided through space as if they were one massive organism, each ship perfectly aligned with the next. Jack finally returned to the bridge, standing beside Maya. "How long until we reveal ourselves?" he asked. Maya looked up, her expression calm and calculating. "When the time is right. We wait until they show their arrogance in full, until they laugh at us one last time. Then we remind them why humans survive." Jack nodded. "Patience has always been our strength. It will be our advantage again." In the council chamber, delegates began to grow complacent. They had dismissed humans for centuries, believing that nothing could come from such a small, fragile species. The younger members of the council, less confident, began to feel uneasy, sensing a presence they could not detect but could somehow feel. Liam Carter noticed it, the small tremor in the council, the subtle shift in attitude. He leaned toward Nora. "Do you feel it?" he asked. Nora nodded. "Yes, something is coming. I only hope they realize the danger before it is too late." Back in the fleet, Ethan completed his reconnaissance run, returning to the flagship with detailed reports of patrol paths and sensor coverage. "They are predictable," he said. "They don't expect anyone to be out there. Their confidence blinds them." Jack reviewed the data, nodding. "That is exactly what we want. They believe we are stories. They believe we are gone. That is our strength. Their arrogance will be the reason they fail." As the hours turned into days, the human fleet continued its silent patrol, hidden and ready. The dreadnoughts, enormous and terrifying to anyone who might see them, were invisible to the council. The humans trained, studied, and prepared, knowing that the moment they revealed themselves, the galaxy would be forced to confront the reality of human power. And in the council chamber, the delegates continued to laugh, argue, and plan for minor issues, blind to the force that waited just beyond their reach. They believed humans were gone. They believed that they were safe. They believed that the myths were just stories. Somewhere deep inside, Liam Carter felt a shiver of fear. He had studied human history, and he knew that the species had survived the impossible before. He had no doubt they were still out there, and he understood that when they returned, the council would pay the price for their arrogance. The humans moved silently through the darkness, ready, patient, and prepared. They waited for the moment when the council's laughter would turn to shock, when the galaxy would finally see what humans could achieve. Every pilot, every crew member, every ship was ready. And when the time came, the myths would become reality, and the council would learn a lesson they would never forget. The council chamber was quiet for a moment as reports came in from the outer systems. The young delegates who had been quietly uneasy began to whisper to one another, sensing something they could not see. Liam Carter shifted in his seat, his eyes narrowing. Something was moving in the dark, beyond the council's sensors, something that did not belong. Nora Field stood near him, tense and alert. "I told you," she said softly. "They are not gone." They never were. Outside, the human fleet began to move. 10,000 dreadnoughts glided silently through space, still invisible to the council. Each ship followed exact paths, each movement calculated to perfection. Jack Harper stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the fleet through the observation screens. The dreadnoughts were enormous, dark shapes against the black void, engines humming softly. Every crew member moved with precision, every system functioning perfectly. Maya Brooks adjusted the coordinates on the map. "We are in position," she said. "They still believe we are myths. Their sensors detect nothing. Any misstep now could reveal us too early, but patience has brought us this far. We wait a little longer." Ethan Cole leaned over the console, checking the patrol paths of council ships. "They are moving exactly as predicted," he said, grinning. "They think nothing is out there. They don't even know to be careful." Jack nodded. "Good. That is exactly how it should be. They will not see us coming. They will laugh, and that is when we strike. Not with anger, but with control. In the council chamber, the delegates continued their discussions as if humans were still a distant memory. Some argued about trade routes, others about small skirmishes in the outer systems. Eli Rhodes laughed, waving his silver appendages dismissively. "Humans?" he said. "Do you still bring them up? They're gone. Their planet is destroyed, their species is extinct. We need not worry about stories from a distant past." Liam Carter frowned. "I am not so sure," he said quietly to Nora. "I feel something. It is like a shadow moving across the stars, something they cannot see, something we cannot stop." Nora nodded. "I have felt it for days. They are not stories. They are coming." Then the first dreadnought appeared. It emerged from a dark nebula, its massive frame suddenly visible to the council's sensors. Panic spread immediately. Alarms rang throughout the council station, and the delegates stared in disbelief. A human ship, massive beyond comprehension, hovered silently in orbit. Its surface reflected the light of the nearby stars, its weapons bristling, its shields glowing faintly. "Impossible," one delegate whispered. "They are supposed to be extinct." "This cannot be real." Liam Carter stood, his green eyes wide. "It is real," he said. "They exist. They have grown. They are not gone." The dreadnought was followed by another, and then another, until the council realized that a small fleet was forming in the darkness. The alarms grew louder, and delegates began to shout over one another, trying to understand what they were seeing. Panic spread as the human fleet continued to emerge from the shadows. 10,000 ships moved into formation, perfectly aligned, a wall of power no species could ignore. Jack Harper watched the council's reactions through the fleet's sensors. "They see us," he said calmly. "Good. They are realizing the truth." Maya Brooks nodded. "They do not know what they are facing," she said. "Their arrogance will be their downfall." The council attempted to respond. Small fleets were dispatched, but they moved slowly, their formations disorganized. The council members were frozen with fear, unsure what to do. Messages were sent to diplomats, demands were made, but no one could make a plan fast enough. The humans were already in control of the situation. Ethan Cole piloted a reconnaissance ship closer to the council station. From his vantage point, he could see the chaos below. Delegates ran through the halls, shouting orders and trying to organize fleets that could not match the humans. The council had believed themselves powerful, but now their weakness was clear. Humans were not only real, they were prepared, disciplined, and unstoppable. Jack Harper activated the communication array. A calm voice, clear and firm, resonated through the council chamber. "You doubted us. You laughed at our existence. You believed we were stories. We are here. We are not weak. We are not extinct. Your arrogance has brought you to this moment. We will not attack unless provoked, but we will not be ignored. Respect our sovereignty or face the consequences." The council erupted into confusion and fear. Delegates argued among themselves, some calling for surrender, others calling for immediate attack. Liam Carter's hands shook slightly as he realized how wrong the council had been. Norafield's eyes filled with a mix of fear and awe. "This is beyond anything I imagined," she whispered. One by one, human dreadnoughts moved into orbit around the council station, blocking escape routes and forming a perfect ring. Their shields glowed faintly, and the council's weapons could not penetrate them. Every move by the humans was calculated, precise, and overwhelming. The council's confidence evaporated. The species they had mocked, dismissed, and believed extinct was now in control. Jack Harper walked along the bridge of the flagship, watching the displays of alien fleets scrambling ineffectively. "They cannot match our coordination," he said. "They do not understand how we operate. That is why they failed." Maya Brooks adjusted a set of coordinates, preparing for a demonstration of the humans' capabilities. "We do not attack," she said. "We show them control. We show them what we can do. They will understand without bloodshed." Ethan Cole smiled as he piloted his ship closer to one of the smaller council vessels. With a single command, he disabled the ship's weapon systems remotely, demonstrating the humans' ability to strike without even firing a shot. The council delegates panicked as their weapons failed, their defenses crumbled, and their confidence shattered. Liam Carter watched from the chamber, his face pale. "They are not myths," he whispered to Nora. "They are real, and they are unstoppable." Nora nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "I told them, I warned them, but no one listened. The humans did not fire their weapons. They did not attack. They simply positioned themselves in perfect formation, demonstrating their strength and control. The council realized that any aggression against humans would be met with swift and decisive retaliation. The arrogance that had dominated the chamber for centuries was replaced with fear and respect. Jack Harper activated another communication channel. "We are not here to destroy," he said. "We are here to be recognized. Your aggression ends now. Any attempt to attack will be met with the full force of our fleet. Do not make a mistake. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We endure. Remember this." The council fell silent. Eli Rhodes, the elder who had laughed at the very mention of humans, could only stare in disbelief. His silver appendages twitched, his voice caught in his throat. He had underestimated them. He had ignored the warnings. Now the truth was clear. Humans were real, and they were more powerful than any had imagined. Delegates tried to send more fleets, but the humans anticipated every move. Every patrol, every attempt to attack, every evasive maneuver was countered with calm precision. The council's arrogance had blinded them, and now they faced the consequences. Humans, once dismissed as stories, now controlled the situation without firing a single destructive shot. Jack watched as the council scrambled. "They are learning," he said. "It takes time, but they will understand." Maya Brooks adjusted the fleet's formation, ensuring that no council ship could escape without being seen. "Their panic is growing," she said. "They will soon realize the truth. They underestimated us. That is their mistake." Ethan Cole flew closer to observe, reporting back on the council's movements. "They are trying to negotiate," he said, "but they are too afraid to commit to anything. Their fear is clear." Jack nodded. "Fear is good. Fear teaches respect. They will never underestimate humans again." The council chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouted demanded answers and tried to coordinate fleets that were now ineffective. Liam Carter realized the enormity of the mistake the council had made. "This is beyond anything they imagined," he whispered. "They thought we were gone. They were wrong." Nora Fields' eyes shone with awe. "They are more than I ever dreamed," she said. "Humans are not just survivors. They are a force the galaxy cannot ignore." Jack Harper walked to the observation window, looking down at the council station. 10,000 dreadnoughts glowed faintly against the darkness of space, silent and powerful. The humans had revealed themselves not with rage, but with calm authority. The council would never forget this moment. The species they had mocked, dismissed, and believed extinct was real, and their power was undeniable. Maya Brooks stood beside him. "They will surrender eventually," she said. "They will have no choice, but we do not need to strike. We only need to exist, to show them that humans are here, that humans survive, and that humans are not stories." Jack nodded, a quiet smile on his face. "This is how humans win. Not with destruction, but with control, discipline, and patience. They will remember this day. They will remember us." And above the council, the humans waited, watching, ready. The myths were gone, the stories were true. Humans existed, and they had returned. The galaxy had seen them for the first time, and it would never be the same again. The council chamber was in total chaos. Delegates shouted over one another, their voices full of fear, disbelief, and panic. Alarms rang across the station as holographic displays flickered, showing the massive human fleet in perfect formation. 10,000 dreadnoughts hovered above the council's seat of power, engines humming softly, shields glowing faintly, weapons at the ready but silent. Every system of the council station had been analyzed, mapped, and countered by human intelligence. The delegates realized, slowly and painfully, that they had no real way to resist. Liam Carter stood frozen, his green eyes wide with awe. He had studied humans for years, had read every record and every story, but nothing prepared him for this. The humans were not myths, not shadows, not stories to entertain children. They were real. They were disciplined, they were precise, and they were in control. Nora Fields, standing beside him, felt a mixture of relief and terror. "This is it," she whispered. "This is the moment I always feared and hoped for. Humans have returned." Eli Rhodes, the elder who had laughed at humans for decades, could only stare at the displays, silver appendages twitching in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. "This cannot be." His words faltered as his voice was drowned by the rising panic of the council. On the flagship, Jack Harper observed the chaos calmly. He had expected this. He had calculated their movements, predicted their fear, and knew that every council fleet was already ineffective against the human formation. He turned to Maya Brooks, who was adjusting the fleet's position, ensuring no council ship could escape. "They are beginning to realize," he said. "Their fear will force them to act. Our patience has brought us this far. Now we show them discipline, not anger." Maya nodded. They have no choice. Any attack will fail. They cannot organize in time. We only need to exist, to show them control. That is our power. Ethan Cole piloted a small reconnaissance ship closer to the council station. From his vantage point, he could see delegations running through corridors, trying desperately to contact fleets, trying to formulate any plan that could possibly stop the humans. Every attempt failed. Communication signals were jammed, pathways blocked by human ships, and the Council's defenses were powerless against the dreadnoughts. Every move they make is predictable, Ethan reported to Jack. They are panicking, trying to coordinate fleets that are no match for us. Jack smiled slightly. Exactly as planned. Fear is their weakness. Arrogance was their mistake. Discipline is ours. Back in the council chamber, delegates argued violently. Some wanted to surrender immediately, recognizing that humans were beyond their ability to fight. Others, still clinging to pride, wanted to strike, to launch attacks that would certainly fail. Liam Carter shouted above the din, trying to reason with the delegates. "Stop!" he yelled. "They are not attacking. They are showing us control. We cannot win this by force." Nora Field stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "Listen to him," she shouted. "They do not need to attack. Their presence alone proves their power. They are humans. They survived the impossible before. They will survive again. Do not make this worse." Some delegates hesitated, their fear overwhelming their pride. They began to communicate cautiously with human commanders, attempting diplomacy for the first time in centuries. Jack Harper activated the communication array once again. His voice, calm, firm, and steady, echoed across the council station. "We are not here to destroy," he said. "We are here to be recognized. Your fleets cannot challenge ours. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields. We are humans. We survive. We adapt. We endure. You may choose aggression, but it will be your undoing. Respect our sovereignty, accept our presence, recognize our place in this galaxy." The chamber went silent. Every delegate froze, realizing the truth of the words. Humans were not myths. Humans were not weak. Humans were real, powerful, and in complete control. The arrogance that had filled the council for generations evaporated, replaced by fear, respect, and a sense of helplessness. Jack watched from the bridge, his eyes scanning the displays. The council was beginning to act rationally, slowly, carefully, but it was clear that they understood the consequences of any aggression. Maya Brooks moved her hands across the control panel, shifting the fleet slightly, forming a tighter ring around the council station. "They cannot escape," she said quietly. "Every path, every signal, every approach is monitored. They are contained. Their choice is to accept or fail." Ethan Cole flew closer to observe the council's fleets. Small patrol ships tried to maneuver, trying to reach human positions, but they were intercepted before they could act. The humans moved without haste, without error, demonstrating the precision and coordination that no other species had ever achieved. Inside the council chamber, Eli Rhodes finally raised his voice, trembling with a mix of fear and awe. We underestimated them," he admitted, his pride fractured. "We laughed at stories, and the stories are real. They are here. They exist. We cannot stop them." Liam Carter turned to Nora Fields, his expression grim but determined. "It is over," he said softly. "They have control. Any attack will be annihilation. We have no choice but to accept them." Nora nodded. "Yes, but at least they do not strike. They show restraint. That is a lesson in itself." Jack Harper continued to address the council, calm and commanding. "This is not conquest. This is warning. Your species will survive if you respect ours. Any attempt to challenge us will fail. We have waited long enough. You doubted us, you laughed at us, and now you see the truth. We are humans, remember that." One by one, delegates began to respond. Some pledged cooperation, some begged for peace, and a few remained silent, unable to speak. The council, once arrogant and dismissive, was now forced to recognize humanity as a power they could not challenge. The galaxy would never treat humans as myths again. Liam Carter looked around the chamber, seeing the fear and respect in the faces of the delegates. "This is what I feared," he said quietly. "Humans are not merely survivors. They are a force of nature. We cannot fight them. We cannot stop them. All we can do is listen." Nora Fields placed a hand on his shoulder. "It is also what I hoped," she said. "They have returned to remind the galaxy that humans are not stories. They are reality." Outside, the human fleet remained in formation. 10,000 dreadnoughts hovered silently, engines glowing faintly. No shots were fired, no lives were lost. The humans had shown control, precision, and restraint, and the council had no choice but to recognize their power. Jack Harper turned to Maya Brooks. "They understand," he said. "They see the truth now. We have won without firing a shot." Maya smiled faintly. "Discipline is stronger than weapons. Intelligence is stronger than arrogance. They will remember this day." Ethan Cole grinned. "And they will tell stories about it just like we used to hear. Only this time, the stories will be true." Jack nodded. "Yes, and next time no one will doubt humans again." Inside the council chamber, Eli Rhodes spoke again, quieter this time. "We were fools," he said. "We dismissed them, we laughed. We ignored the truth. Let this be a lesson for every species in this galaxy. Humans are not to be underestimated." Liam Carter felt a strange sense of relief and awe. He had feared humans for what they might do, but he also understood the lesson they had delivered. Discipline, patience, intelligence, and courage. These were human traits that no one could match. The council would never forget this moment. Nora Fields turned to him. "They showed mercy," she said. "They could have destroyed us, but they didn't. They taught us without bloodshed. That is humanity." Jack Harper activated the final communication to the council. "We leave you with this," he said. "Respect us. Learn from us. Remember that humans survive. Remember that humans endure. Remember that humans exist. And remember, we are not stories. We are real. We are here." With that, the human fleet slowly began to withdraw, remaining visible enough to remind the council of their power, but retreating just enough to leave the galaxy with a lesson. Every movement was calculated, every ship aligned with precision. The council watched in stunned silence as the dreadnoughts disappeared into the darkness, leaving only the memory of their presence. Liam Carter stood in the chamber, pale but thoughtful. "They have returned," he said quietly, "and they have changed everything." Nora Fields nodded. "Yes, the galaxy will never be the same. Humans have returned, and now everyone knows the truth. The council would rebuild. The delegates would recover from their panic. They would tell future generations the story of the humans who were dismissed as myths, only to return with 10,000 dreadnoughts, disciplined, controlled, and powerful beyond imagination. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were real, humans were strong, and humans would survive anything. And far in the darkness of space, Jack Harper, Maya Brooks, and Ethan Cole watched the council system slowly stabilize, knowing that humanity had won not by destruction but by precision, patience, and intelligence. They had returned from myth to reality. They had reminded the galaxy that humans were not to be doubted. The legend of humanity was no longer a story. It was truth. The stars shone quietly above, and the human fleet moved back to hidden systems, ready for whatever the galaxy might bring. They had shown their power, preserved their strength, and sent a clear message to every species. Underestimate humans at your own risk. The myths were gone. The stories were real, and humanity had returned to take its place among the stars.